Welcome to Women Can Too. Women all over the world have the ideas, the passion, the knowledge, and the power. All they need now is the opportunity to prove that they can succeed in male-dominated industries. My podcast, a podcast for us, creates a safe space to tell stories, discuss topics, and break down the barriers and stereotypes that are holding women back from their full potential. We hope to inspire more women to chase their professional dreams and have the courage to dream and then make it a reality. Welcome back, everyone. Firstly, I just want to say thank you so much for all the support in our first episode. I'm so excited to see where this podcast takes us and how much impact we can make within the professional sales industries, and to really knock down those barriers and embrace the power of conversations. Today's episode is called Why That Move. It's designed to showcase a new environment creating a sports spin on this topic. I know so many people are involved in sport in some form or another, either watching their children, watching it on TV, playing it themselves, or even being a coach. I have played college basketball for 4 years and have been influenced by so many people in my journey on the court. Today I have 3 people joining us, and you will be able to see how this topic affects different levels of coaching and hear their perspectives. Our first guest speaker I'm going to introduce is Justin Irwin, who is the Weber State Sports Performance Trainer, also known as JI. Justin is responsible for the development, implementation, and oversight of the strength and conditioning program for the Wildcats men's and women's basketball programs. He is tasked with designing and implementing strength, agility, speed, flexibility, and conditioning programs. Before Weber State, Justin spent 2 years at Greensville in Tennessee as the director of the basketball performance for the men's program. And he was also the head of strength and conditioning department. He completed his master's degree in sports administration in 2021. I'm so glad to welcome him to the podcast, and I have loved Justin's support in the weight room and his knowledge about nutrition, injury prevention, and strength, to ensure that I am in the best shape both mentally and physically during the season, giving me the best chance to perform at a high level. Welcome, Justin, to Women Can Too. How are you?
I'm great, LT. How are you?
I'm well, thank you. Thanks for asking. I appreciate you taking the time to join the podcast and discuss all things sport in our special episode. Could you first tell our listeners how you started your journey as a sports trainer and what caught your eye to follow this career field?
Yeah, so first off, thanks for having me. First podcast, so kind of nervous. I got into the field whenever I was in high school. I played basketball, and not being the tallest of people, I had to find ways to make an impact on the court. So that's where I really found the weight room, what it could do for me with my vertical, jumping higher, running faster, and just being stronger on the court. And ever since then, I kind of fell in love with it. Fast forward to college, I was kind of messing around, trying to figure out what I wanted to do in my career. This was before I knew about strength conditioning. And it's about 2 years in, still trying to figure out what I want to do. I finally, find out what strength conditioning was. And ever since then, here I am. So, I started my undergrad at the University of Central Oklahoma. My first internship, collegiate gym, private gym in Los Angeles, kind of sports performance, but more for the general population. After that, I went to the University of North Texas, where I worked with multiple sports, including football, men's and women's basketball, soccer, you name it. After that, I was at the University of Florida with the women's and men's basketball team. And then COVID hit. And then after COVID, once sports got back to normal, I got a graduate assistantship in East Tennessee at the University of Tusculum. It's a D2 where I oversaw the whole department, ran football, men's and women's basketball. So it was a lot, to say the least. And then after that, I moved across country to the great state of Utah, where here I am at Weber State, going into my second year working with men's and women's basketball. So yeah, that's a little bit how I got into it and a little my journey.
Fun fact, J.I. also worked out with Kelsey Plum, so I'm a little bit jealous of that.
Yeah, also blocked her shot. So, Kelsey, if you somehow listen to this, don't think I forgot.
How has the change been from a Division II basketball program in Tennessee to Division I at Weber State?
Man, it's been definitely a change, to say the least. The last school I was at was more of a lower budget school, so there wasn't many things that I could implement that I wanted to. So here at Weber, there's more equipment, a little more budget. So if there's things that I do think we need, I can, I'm more able to get. I think that's the main thing. I think still, athletes train hard at all levels. There's no difference there. I just think it's, resources and, access to those resources has been the biggest change.
Definitely agree with that, especially coming from a JUCO to a Division I. It's a big change.
Yeah.
What have you implemented here at Weber State into the women's program to help break the stereotypes that women receive within the sporting world?
Yeah, great question. I think the big thing is training hard. So, when you think of training hard in the weight room, whether it's right or wrong, it's more so you think of men, going hard in the weight room. And I think that's far from the truth. I think women are some of the hardest workers, if not harder workers than the guys. Hopefully the guys aren't listening to this. Don't come at me. But I do think the women train harder. Like, I think they have a chip on their shoulder because of that, stereotype that they don't train hard or they don't lift heavy. So that's the one thing I think is the stereotype that, we are breaking, because I see it every day. And LT sees it. She's a part of it. Like, we're working hard, and we're not just doing a little things here and there and just getting by just to say we're lifting weights. So we do train hard, just as hard. So I think that's a stereotype that, we've kind of broken. Wouldn't you say so?
I definitely agree. And I think JI has been a massive mentor for us, especially coming in the second year. Like, we've just seen us grow so much as like women and athletes, like far beyond we could even imagine. But I just want to ask you, based on a mentor question, what are ways do you help women, especially our basketball team, with staying focused, not listening to the outside noise? Like, how do you as a trainer implement those?
I think I'm just, you probably attest this, I am myself, in the training sessions. I try to make it as fun as I can be. I'm far from the stereotypical strength coach, yelling and screaming and just hollering. I will, holler here and there, but usually it's something fun, or, it's just kind of keeping you guys fun, because it is hard. Like, what we're doing is hard. And if, I'm always beating you guys down, like, you're not going to look forward to it. So I try to make it so you guys look forward to the lifts, but we get our work done. And that's what I tell recruits all the time. Like our vibe in the weight room is, it's uplifting, it's fun. We'll turn the music up and we'll get after it, but we train hard. But in those times of rest or whatever it is, I try to get your mind off the next set. I'll just talk to you, mess with you, or whatever it is, just to kind of get you guys to enjoy it, because I want you guys to be in there. So I think that's the biggest way, trying to, in terms of staying focused. I think that's how I go about it.
I think you also find a really good balance with it as well, and get to know each one of the players so that you know what each one needs to bring, whether you need to rev someone up a little bit more or whether you're joking or give an inspirational quote, whatever it is. I think you do very well at that. Now, I know some male trainers, even ones I've had in the past, have found it very difficult to talk to women, to female athletes, about weighing themselves before and after workouts, and also about nutrition. So my question to you is, how do you handle those situations and communicate with athletes about this?
Ooh, that's a tough one. Especially with the female population, it is harder, especially being a male. And, in the world we do live in, especially with women, weight is a big thing. like talking about it. A lot of people, you know, they don't like to talk about it. Like, I know our team, there's, you know, sometimes people don't want to get on the scale, and, you know, I kind of go about it however I can. Like, you know, I don't want to break any rules or step over any boundaries, but I, you know, try to tread the fine line of, you know, pushing them and saying like, hey, like, yeah, it's all right. Like, you're up in weight, but like, it's not the end of the world. Or, you know, and I try to just manage it. You know, I'm not going to belittle anyone, or as you shouldn't, for, you know, maybe being a little overweight. And I think it's just making them comfortable with, hey, like, you know, you got to tell them, like, it's kind of negligence to not tell them, like, hey, you know, we need to move the scale in the other direction, you know. And you just got to know the athlete, like you said, build those relationships. So I know how to talk to each athlete. Like, one athlete might take, you know, the advice differently than the other. And it's just kind of finding that balance of, hey, we still need to work, but like also like not make them, you know, feel bad or whatever it is. So it's never, there's no right answer. It's kind of just, it depends, and just kind of going from each athlete and figuring out who they are and what gets them going, and, you know, what they're comfortable with talking about.
I also think you relate it back to basketball, which makes it a lot more of a topic. It's not really how much you weigh off the court. It's more like basketball-wise, especially for me. JI's taken the time to do nutrition plans, which is not even what he's designed to do, but he knows the background of it, and he takes the time to do it so that I can perform on the court, that I'm having enough calories and food intake so that I can actually perform both, you know, in the weight room and on court. And I think that's definitely something that women need to realize, that their trainers aren't doing it in regards to weight-wise. They're doing it in regards to health and making sure that your body's not breaking down, that it's, you know, staying up to the high level that you can go to. So what are some of the differences that you have seen between training women compared to men in the college world?
Well, to touch back on the point, I think, at least that I've seen, the women's team work harder. It's just what it is, you know. And I think that, you know, in the weight room, like, if you want to get into the training details, I think women can handle, let's say, more reps. They're able to recover faster, you know, between sets. Like, we might do less rest, and I've seen that they handle that better than the men would. The men need longer rest. The men might be able to do more weight in terms of their body weight, but that's through like nervous system efficiency, whatever it is. That's
just how we're made.
We're made. That's just how it is, right? And then upper body, you know, women, like, we take smaller jumps. So say LT can, you know, crush a 20 overhead press, and then we give her a 25 and it kind of crushes her. Like, there's that fine difference. Like, we need smaller jumps. So say we go from 20 to 22 and a half. That's more acceptable for a woman, because, like I said, that jump is a big jump compared to, you know, a man taking a 50 to a 55. So just a couple of things, like, you know, I observed, and there's not too much difference. Like, we're all human. We're playing basketball. It's the same sport. So like, my programs won't look like too different in terms of like exercises we select or anything. Like, sometimes, you know, people will see me train the men and then the women, they're like, that's the same program. I'm like, yeah, like, what? And like, they're playing basketball, they need this. Like, I'm not going to make a different workout just because they're females. Like, there's things that I do want to address with females too, though, in terms of like knee health, you know, because ACLs, just slight changes, but like, in general, like, the meat and potatoes of it is all the same.
Do you think there's any difference in the private sessions compared to college at all? Like
the private sector?
Yeah, like
when I was doing general population. Yeah. There is, because and so the private sector, like, if I'm working with people outside of college, they don't have homework, but they have jobs. They have kids, they have wives, so their time is way more limited as opposed to a college student. As much as you guys say you don't have time, you have more time than people, in that outside world working. So that's one thing. And then they're not training to be professional athletes or collegiate athletes, whatever it is. They're trying to, stay healthy, which is, I do the same for you guys, but they just want to, move good, look good, and feel good. They don't need to perform on the court. So as much as I do the feel good, look good, move good for you guys, I also want you to perform on the court. So some, basketball things are added in there as opposed to they just kind of do, weights and maybe some walk-in or whatever it is.
What are ways you've found to help female athletes find success both in the gym and on the court?
I think they've kind of, in a sense, they find it themselves. So what I do is, I put the program out there. We go through our sessions. I, do everything I can to get you better. And then I want you guys to see it. So the best thing for me is when you guys come to me and are like, I felt so much faster, or I was able to get through this workout and I just killed it. I wasn't tired. And that right there is like, you guys are seeing it. Like, I don't have to tell you that, oh, this is like, you look like that. Like, you guys come to me and like, I jumped higher today. And I'm like, huh, that's weird. The weights are working or whatever, the training's working. And so I think the buy-in through just seeing the results is the best way that I've seen, you guys find success on the court through the gym.
And have you always, I guess, asked those questions that you have to like specifically our team, and I know you do it for men and women, is like asking how much sleep we've had, how much food we've had, all of those like general questions so that you can adjust our session for it. Has that always been something that you've done, or you more lean towards now because of, the student athlete life and the balancing?
Yeah. I think I've always done it, because I've always believed like I want the most optimal training sessions. And if you had a final that night and you were up till 3 a.m, we have 8 o'clock weights and you come in off 5 hours of sleep, how would I know? I know you guys probably aren't going to tell me because, you guys are tough and you want to, grind through it or whatever. So that's where I have to ask those questions and get an assessment for myself. I know when to pick my battles, when to push you guys, and then when to pull back. And I think, just getting sleep and what have you eaten today just helps me like, all right, so what I had planned for you might not be the greatest thing, right? So I want the next session to be good too. Like, I don't want to crush you guys in this session and it roll over and you guys not be able to perform at the next session, that or not be able to perform at practice later. So, so just getting those indicators and, those assessments have been huge for me, just to kind of see where you guys are at in terms of, daily and how you're feeling.
And as a female athlete, it's great that JI really does do that for both men and women. He doesn't just pick men's sport, even though that's his practically designated sport, that he evens his time out when he can to both men and women. I think that's a huge thing moving forward, especially for Weber State. So that's a good thing. What's one piece of advice that you would give your female athletes to help them become the best version of themselves?
I think the main word I think of is consistency, especially for you, Jaden and Monk, who have been training all summer. We've been as consistent as we've ever been. And, in result of that, we're probably in the best shape we've ever been since I've been here. And I think, just stacking the days day by day, whether it's an off day, but we're doing something, to our hard days where we're going hard. I think just being consistent and not think you have to get it all in one day, and just building from there. I think that's the biggest thing.
I agree. What amazing advice. And I just want to take this opportunity to say how appreciative I am for you, for all you've done for me and continue to do. You've really shaped the player I have become. So thank you, and thank you for coming onto the podcast.
Of course, it was fun. Thank you, LT.
Our second guest speaker is Cydney McHenry, known as Coach Mac. She's the Weber State women's basketball assistant coach. She joins Weber State after spending the last 2 seasons at Westminster College in Salt Lake City, working as assistant coach with Coach Jackson. Prior to coaching, she also played basketball herself at Adams State, where she was a 2-year starter as a guard with the Grizzlies. She then spent a season as a grad assistant for Adams State men's basketball program in 2017 to 2018, followed by a year as an assistant coach for the ASU women's basketball team. I'm so excited to have her part of our new basketball coaching staff and excited to get this season started. Good afternoon, Coach Mac. How are you?
I'm doing well. How are you, LT?
I'm good. Thank you so much for joining me on Women Can Too. It's a pleasure to have you.
Well, it's a pleasure to be here.
Thank you. I just want to jump straight in and ask you what sparked your dream of being a coach and has it always been on the cards for you?
No, it was not. When I got to college, I had no idea what I was going to do with my life. I just knew I wanted to play basketball. And so got there, I think my major was mathematics. And then, as you'll learn,
you picked a hard one.
I am not a math genius, so I don't even know why that was the choice. But then I changed it to teaching, and then eventually I became a business major. And so I just kind of bounced around, figuring out what I wanted to do. My best friend in college, her dream had always been to coach basketball, like undoubtedly. And I was like, you know what, that'd be kind of fun, like I'd hang out with my assistant coaches. I was like, this sounds like the life, like just watch basketball, think about basketball, and then you actually don't have to run. So like, it's like all the best parts. So
you can watch other people run.
Exactly. So, my senior year after graduating, I kind of didn't have solid plans on what I was doing. And my business professor had a really good relationship with the men's head coach. And she was like, would you ever consider coaching on the men's side? And I hadn't thought about it. And that's when she created that connection. Him and I talked, and it just kind of one thing rolled into another. And then I've enjoyed it ever since then. But I wouldn't say it was always in the cards for me now.
Now, I know you initially, like you mentioned, you coached a men's side at Adams State after your playing career. Why the change to a women's program?
So it's kind of mixed. Like, I did miss being on the women's side of just like the relationships. I feel like, I don't know if it was just the specific program I was involved in, but I feel like I could get a lot closer relationship and it was just more enjoyable in an all around sense of just being around that environment. But initially, the whole reason I jumped back was because the ability to move up on the men's side in that side of the industry would be extremely hard as a woman. And so, it's not the most high-paying job in the beginning at all. And I just didn't foresee myself being able to, like, financially be able to sustain how long it might take to get a full-time coaching job on the men's side. So that's why it really pushed me over to the women's side, but I don't regret it because of all the other things I mentioned prior.
And do you think that's something that is a downfall within the sporting world, that women don't even feel like they can go onto the men's side or, have the opportunity to pick either one because it is so difficult?
Yes, absolutely. And like, you see it a lot. You see some programs, I think at the Division II level, you see it a lot more than obviously the Division I level. Mm-hmm. But there are programs in which the head coach on the women's side wasn't doing well, or the program was starting to fall apart. And they just take one of the men's assistants, and all of a sudden he's the head coach on the women's side. And they think it just transitions flawlessly. And, in some cases it might work, but that's because basketball is basketball. Mm-hmm. Like, you should be able to understand it. And there are deeper things to it, that as a female, I feel like I can connect better with female athletes. But that opportunity wouldn't be given to, a men's basketball staff that's falling apart. They wouldn't take a female on the female side and ask her to take over the program.
That's definitely a major problem.
So.
And with a question relating back to the men's side, do you feel like the men's team were very respected? Like, do you feel like you were very respected by them, or do you feel like they listened more to the men's coach compared to the women's just because you were a girl coaching?
I had
straight out of high school.
That's true. A few of the players, yes. And honestly, the younger ones, like I recruited a few of the freshmen, they were probably the most respectful. And I don't know if that's because I had built a relationship recruiting them. And I would say overall, my head coach did a great job of like setting the boundary of like respect is going to be expected.
That's standard.
Yeah. And so he did a fantastic job of making sure that I wasn't just going to be disrespected because I'm a woman. If I'm going to be disrespected, it's because I failed to tell them the right information or I didn't know what I was doing. It's going to be on an equal basis compared to the other assistant coaches I was working with. But yeah, there definitely was a few players that I don't think they would outright say it was because I was a woman, but we definitely clashed because I don't think they liked being told what to do. And I think that came off the court issues more so as like trying to follow up with their grades and follow up, they're skipping class and I'm trying to hold them accountable. And that's when I think I saw the most disrespect.
And I wonder what that change would be like if you didn't have the head coach that you had. How different it would actually be if someone didn't create those standards, like how different it would be. And I think a lot of programs are seeing that because they don't have that high standard.
Yes.
Because they haven't got women involved in it.
Yes, absolutely.
And what do you think were your biggest differences you identified comparing women's and men's basketball?
On the court, obviously the men's game is like a little bit faster. You can have dunk plays. You can have, there's a lot more that the game is more geared towards them. But I would say those were kind of the main things. But obviously you could take a dunk play and you can transition that into the women's game. And it may not be a dunk, but it's going to be a layup. You can run the exact same play. It's just going to have a less exciting finish, I guess, is what you could call it.
Which is super frustrating. Like me as a female athlete, like I just really, like it's hard to be able to encourage people to come to the games when there's not dunks. And I don't think people realize, and I wish parents would explain to their kids that that's not just what basketball is. It's not about dunking. It's not about, all the tricks and stuff. There is an actual like fine line of playing it. There's plays, the whole, there's so much more to the game than just dunking. But
I know. Well, and like, I think there's a lot of times you ask a kid and you're like, would you like to make the last second three or would you like to make the dunk? And, you ask a bunch of young boys and they're all going to say the dunk. And the girls, I think there's a couple girls that are like, yeah, I definitely wish I could get up and dunk it on the rim.
I mean, I wish too, but
but a lot of them, want to hit that last second three. Or, you see a lot of the shorter kids that are like, it's a three because I can't touch the rim. So it's, unfortunately, I think that's what the game's made out to be. But look at the NCAA championships on the women's side. Like, there were so many exciting things that happened. And
how many people watched them? Like,
yeah,
I think it was like triple what the men's were.
It was huge. And it was exciting. Like, I was so into it. I was there and like every moment I'm like standing up. I'm like, okay, is she going to shoot it? What are they going to do?
I think it is changing. And I definitely think tribute to Kobe as well. With his daughter, he definitely changed.
He started to put a little bit more focus and redirect a little bit of energy too.
And start those discussions that we should have had a very long time ago. But
well, and in addition to that, I think that there's been a lot of growth in like, it used to just be UConn and Tennessee. And that's like, growing up, I was a huge Tennessee fan because those were teams you ever heard of. And I mean, yeah, Stanford was still really good at the time. And there's still a lot of great programs. But now there's a lot more competitiveness when it gets into the championship. And like, watching Utah this year was so exciting because it was a new team to the mix. And I think it's just the game is growing as well. And there's just so much more competitiveness from across the country that's making it better.
I completely agree. Now, what are a few things that you've learned or experienced that has made you become a better coach?
Patience. I think. I think, you just, the game happens so fast, but it's really not that fast. So learning to, kind of slow it down and take the time. And I think I used to have a shorter fuse when it came to not necessarily messing up, because I've always been accepting of like, you make mistakes. It's totally fine. But it's more so the response to the messing up. I used to have a really short fuse if like somebody turned over the ball and then started walking back or jogged back, right? The rest of their team is, sprinting to try and like make a stop. Mm-hmm. So I've learned more patience in trying to understand. Now in a game, I don't think there's as much of a...
You haven't got that much time.
Yeah. But in practice, there's more to understanding deeper of what's going on mentally. And so I think that's what I've really grown is to understand not just, the patience aspect, but what is going on that we can correct that's even deeper than that. Was there a level of shame in that, and then turning over, and why does that shut you down instead of fire you back up and all those kind of things. So I think those deep understandings are what's I've really grown to understand in the game.
That makes sense. Now, what are 3 aspects of basketball that you were looking forward to teaching the Weber State women's basketball team?
3 aspects. I think me personally, I guess I'm not going to speak for our whole program or Jax and everything, but I think me as a coach personally, I plan to bring a lot of intensity. I'm a very loud, I get very excited. I'm fine jumping on the bench in my 6-inch heels. I like that excitement of the game. I get really into it. So intensity, understanding, I do also want to be the coach that you're going through, you can't figure out the play. You can't figure out the set. You can't figure out what you're doing wrong defensively. I want to be able to have somebody come to me and feel comfortable asking how to fix this, how to correct it. And also, if I don't, figuring that out together and having that solution. 90% of the time I have the answer. And then probably the third thing would be, oh gosh, that's a great question. Maybe some competitiveness. Mm-hmm. I think that kind of matches that intensity. But I do hate losing. We all show it differently.
I hate it too.
I think that's a general thing of competitors. So it's that competitiveness, but I'm excited to show kind of the wins and the losses even in practice and just, really going after each and every drill in a way of okay, we're winning. This is a standard. This is an expectation.
I like that. I like the sound of wins. As a mentor, what is one piece of advice that you would give a female athlete entering a male-dominated industry?
I feel like the word patience has really been sticking in a lot of things. It takes time. Some people are going to make it in this industry a lot faster than others. And it's because, a lot of times, some people know people that get them into positions faster. And so as long as you just keep having the straightforward work ethic and, you keep doing what you know how to do it well, be on time, do it right. And if you don't, ask questions. But you may not move at the same pace as your peers. And it will suck and it does hurt, but you will shine eventually. If this is the career that you're cut out for, and if your skill set is really what's great for women's basketball, then it will pay off. It's just going to take time. It's not going to look the same as it does for everybody else.
Learning how to run your own race.
Yes, that's exactly right.
So lastly, thank you so much for taking the time to meet with me today. I have loved hearing your powerful advice and your perspectives on this topic.
You're welcome. Thank you for having me.
Our final guest speaker for this episode is Jenteal Jackson, known as Coach Jax. She's the Weber State women's basketball new head coach. She's a Utah native and a former in-state college player who comes to Weber State after spending the last 2 seasons as a head coach at Westminster College in Salt Lake City. Before becoming a head coach, she was an assistant coach for 9 seasons at Westminster, following a 2-year playing career at the same school. Not only coaching basketball, Coach Jax has also been a head and assistant coach for golf. She played 2 seasons of college basketball at BYU before transferring to Westminster, where she played 2 seasons from 2010 to 2012. I'm so excited to have Coach Jax as my new coach, and I cannot wait to start and get this winning season underway. Good morning, Coach Jax. Thank you so much for meeting me today, and welcome to Women Can Too. It's a pleasure to have you, and congratulations on your new position as the Weber State women's basketball head coach.
Thank you. Happy to be here. Thanks for having me.
Now, as a female head coach in a male-dominated world, how do you inspire your athletes to believe in themselves, stay focused, and not to listen to the outside noise of stereotypes?
Oh, it's a good question. I think just trying to continually remind them that they are just as capable, if not more capable, than any male. No matter if it's the workplace, on the court, any sort of setting, that doesn't matter if you're female or male, they can accomplish anything they want. And I think continually reminding them of that narrative versus society's narrative is important. Keep our circle tight. We've got a little family here. It's a team and help build each other up to just continue to aspire to be whatever each kid wants to be and help them achieve that along the way. But I do think it's important to talk about because most industries are male dominated. Even on coaching side, I think it's always fascinating that the men's side of the game is 99.99999%.
Yep.
There's like a couple of females in there coached by males, and the women's side is not that way, And so I'm always pointing out why not, why can't it be coached 99.99% by females as well? So let's give those jobs to females. Let's help females see that, get there, and want to achieve those things.
And I'm definitely grateful that Weber State kept a female coach. I think that was something super important. So I'm glad you're now here. What methods do you use to lead female athletes to become strong women both on and off the court? And do you use any books, podcasts, or any other coaching examples to help you?
Yeah, I do. I wouldn't say I use like one specific book, one specific podcast. I think I'm always trying to read, learn, listen, gather information continually to have just more knowledge or more tools to help them. Because it is, life's tough. College is a challenging time in life where you're going through a lot, especially as a student athlete. So I think the biggest thing that we try to do, myself and my staff, is just to support them in whatever area they need. Sometimes that's on the court, sometimes that's off the court, sometimes it's academically, sometimes they might be having a hard time in their relationship, sometimes they might be having family dynamics that are tricky. Sometimes they're coming out. There's a lot of different things that kids are experiencing in these 4 to 5 years of college that the biggest...
Growing up.
Growing up, kind of out of the house for the first time for a lot of kids, figuring out who they are, not necessarily who they've been told to be. So I'd say the biggest thing I try to do is just support them. Everyone's journey is different. Everyone's going to want different things. They're going to have a different path that they're going to walk, and that's okay. So to help support them in that journey, and not only support them, but celebrate that, celebrate that and celebrate the differences within the team.
I like that. Is that your coaching style definitely dependent on what you wish you had as a coach when you played yourself?
Yeah, a little bit, but I would say I was pretty lucky in that department, especially my senior year of college. The coach that came in, Shelly Gerard, she was great in that way. Learned a lot from her. I got to coach with her after, kind of fit who I am as a person really well. So to be able to see that be demonstrated, especially at the college level, was a really neat experience.
That's cool. Yeah. What is one piece of advice you would give your team and other females who face barriers like comparing themselves to men?
Just don't do it. You don't need to compare yourselves to men. You just need to compare yourself to yourself. And what are you going after, right? I think, easier said than done, right? Especially in the workforce, because it's pretty much every industry. I don't know an industry that isn't male dominated, right? So it's tough to do, but just stay focused on what you're able to do, what you can control, what you're able to achieve, how you can better yourself, how you can prep yourself best for that position. And just keep chasing that, because I think, society is starting to go in a better direction as far as that goes. We're not anywhere close to where we need to be.
A long way to go.
Yeah, long way to go, but at least there's a little more awareness now. I think people are talking about it.
I think we're going in the right direction.
Right.
Having those conversations.
Yeah, we're taking steps in the right direction. So hopefully one day we'll get there. I hope when I'm an old lady, I can.
That's going to be like 50 years from now. But
yeah, hopefully 50 years we can look back and it's just, we've taken huge strides to where it is a little more equal in the workforce and the workplace, to where we aren't being pinned up against men and paid less and all the barriers that we face today.
I agree. Now, are you ready, Coach? Because it's game time. Rapid fire questions.
I'm ready.
What is your favorite female athlete?
Ooh, I think right now I really love Caitlin Clark, but typically I would say Serena Williams. Just because.
Tennis fan, okay.
Yeah, she's just a force of nature, and I like how much she speaks out. I like all that she does in the community. More than just an athlete. Man, she is a force of nature.
I agree. What's one thing you always do on game day?
I always try to take, like, even if it's 10 minutes, sometimes I try to do 15, 20, and just like chill, breathe. Sometimes I try to meditate a little bit and do some stretching. So
nice.
Slow down, calm down.
Get all that game day.
Yeah, get all that excitement to settle. It's good.
Would you rather dunk, assist, a 3-pointer, or a jump shot?
Ooh, I mean, I love a good assist, but I've never been able to dunk, obviously, so I might have to choose that one.
Well, I might need to step up that one.
Yeah. Trampoline.
Yeah, for real. What is your game day song?
Ooh, I don't have a consistent one as a coach, but I know when I played, I always listen to, I think Jay-Z, Remember the Name.
Nice. Might have to put that one on the playlist.
Old school. Yeah. Throwback.
So I guess that's a winning song for sure. Now, Coach Jax, it's been an honor to have you on Women Can Too, and I've loved hearing your insights on what music we should all listen to in order to win a Wildcat way and a Wildcat game. So go Cats.
All right. Thanks for having me.
Now that wraps up our second episode on Women Can Too. I hope you've all loved hearing 3 of our guest speakers' perspectives, because I have loved interviewing them. It was such a special episode, and I hope we can do this again in the future with more amazing guests. Thank you again to Justin, Coach Mac, and Coach Jax for joining the podcast today. Something for you all to think about for the next episode is, sometimes you will face barriers, but the most important thing to remember is stepping outside of your comfort zone might be the best thing you ever did. Thanks again for listening, and remember, women can too. Until next time, be safe and keep on smiling.